UFC 296 is this weekend, and our main event is going to be Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington for the welterweight title. Colby Covington is coming off a pretty long layoff, a year and 9 months. Leon Edwards is coming off some really good momentum against Kamaru Usman. It has been, like 8 or 9 months since his last fight, 8 months and 2 weeks. So it's been a while for him as well. He hasn't been the most active fighter in his entire career. I think he had like a 2 or 3 year layoff at one point. I think took a year between the Nate Diaz fight and the second Kamaru Usman fight. So Leon Edwards is coming off a lot of momentum, does take a lot of time off. He's still relatively young, but this video is going to be more of an in-depth version of what I said in my full card prediction and breakdown video. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. I broke down every single fight from start to finish, early prelim to the main event, but I'm going to give a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown, like I said. But for this fight, I am going to go with Colby Covington, just hopping straight in from kind of where I went in my full card prediction video. Colby Covington, on paper, I think has a better chance, especially in the wrestling department, than Kamaru Usman. I know a lot of people, I won't necessarily say a lot of people, but I think some people will see Leon Edwards beat the wrestler, and Kamaru Usman, he can do the same thing to another wrestler in Colby Covington, who's not as I will say, established on the feet as Kamaru Usman will, because it's kind of weird, because on the feet, I feel like Colby Covington had a lot of success against Kamaru Usman, but I think the power was just a big difference maker, and I think a lot of the power that Kamaru Usman does have kind of keeps some of these guys at bay, so it is a little bit different. Colby Covington, I guess, as like a holistic view, probably isn't the same guy on the feet as Kamaru Usman, even though Kamaru Usman, technicality-wise, isn't that great of a fighter on the feet, but Colby Covington, he pushes the pace on guys, and that's a lot different from what Kamaru Usman does. Kamaru Usman tries to just basically pick you up and drop you, just be stronger, be bigger, just kind of bully you in a corner. It's not like Colby, who's going to push a pace, going to try and tire you out, just going to keep coming at you and not give you that breather. It's a little bit different. I feel like Kamaru Usman, who relies on his physicality a lot to get takedowns, couldn't really be that guy against Leon Edwards, who's a lot bigger, a lot more technical on the feet, who does have some pretty good skill on the ground and the grappling. He did end up taking Kamaru Usman down in that second fight. So Leon Edwards is pretty impressive, and I know he's bigger. I know Colby Covington is not as big as Kamaru Usman. However, I think his style is going to give Leon Edwards a lot of trouble. I guess from what we've seen, Colby Covington's been training in Colorado, which is insane at altitude. So his cardio is definitely not going to be a worry. It never was a worry. However, it 100% isn't now. And I think there's a lot of factors coming into this fight that I think are pretty intriguing. Obviously, we don't know what Colby Covington will look like a year and 9 months from his last fight against Jorge Masvidal, but I think from what I've seen, I think Colby Covington can put the pace on Leon Edwards, tire him out a lot, especially early on in the fight. I think Leon Edwards will have some success, but as the fight goes on, I think Colby Covington will just be a little bit too much for him. Colby Covington, I believe, is actually changing stances for this fight. I saw something where his coach said that he's going to be going to orthodox. There's something out there. I guess Colby Covington has always been kind of an orthodox fighter, but has been fighting at southpaw stance. So I think that's pretty interesting. I wonder where he's going to be at in this fight, because in the training videos, you can see him fighting at southpaw. So I think that's pretty interesting. Maybe he'll give Leon Edwards a couple different looks, but I think even then, Colby Covington, who's going to keep going forward on Leon Edwards, isn't really going to give Leon Edwards the space to hurt him. I think Leon Edwards in that fight against Kamaru Usman, specifically in the third fight, because I think it was a lot slower of a fight. It wasn't at altitude, so Leon Edwards wasn't necessarily gassing, even though that's probably what might happen if this fight does go into the later rounds against a guy in Colby Covington who doesn't really give you that breath of air in their fights. I think in this one, Leon Edwards, the way Kamaru Usman fought, he kind of just walked him down a little bit more. He didn't push. Colby Covington pushes. He's going to push Leon Edwards. He's going to basically come right at him and not stop. Kamaru Usman kind of just walked him down, drew out his jab a little bit more, which allowed Leon Edwards to circle out a little bit more and kind of time a knee and a body kick. It was a little bit slower for Kamaru Usman in that fight, and I think those body kicks and the knees kind of just kept Kamaru Usman at bay. He's a lot more predictable with his takedown attempts, in my opinion. I think Colby Covington, who shot takedowns out of a clinch. You saw that kind of against Robbie Lawler and RDA a while back. I think that's like 5 years ago at this point. Let me actually check. Tyron Woodley fight 3 years ago. Kamaru Usman 4 years ago. Robbie Lawler 4 years ago. So you've seen him shoot takedowns out of the clinch, push him up against the fence, and kind of just work his way down there. So maybe the knee isn't going to necessarily be a worry for Colby Covington, and he's a lot harder to kind of track down in time with some of those shots. And I think that's going to be a really big problem for Leon Edwards. I think the way Leon does win this fight is kind of the body kicks. I think that's going to be a really big X factor. You saw Kamaru Usman get that on Colby Covington. You saw that against Colby Covington with the Jorge Masvidal fight. The body kicks definitely came at him. He kind of adjusted a little bit more, kind of put his arms down a little bit, which could lead to a possible head kick from Leon Edwards in that fight, or in this fight. But I do think Colby Covington not giving Leon Edwards the air, allowing Leon Edwards to get comfortable on the feet, keeping him on the back foot, is really going to benefit him in this fight. And if he is going to give Leon Edwards multiple looks and different stances in this fight, I think that's another thing to add on to Colby Covington, and it's certainly an advantage for him in this fight. I think early on, Leon Edwards is going to look really good against Colby Covington because Colby Covington is going to be a little bit rusty. You saw that in the Kamaru Usman 2 fight. I do think Colby Covington will put on the pressure as this fight goes on. I do think Leon Edwards is going to have a very successful first and second round. Second round is going to be a little bit more competitive. However, I think the first round he's probably going to hurt Colby Covington a little bit more. Going to be throwing a lot into his shots. Going to be trying to unload a bunch of combos, trying to get Colby Covington out there early. But I think Colby's going to eventually be able to put a pace on him, especially in that second round, get some takedowns down, and eventually start to wear on him in 3, 4, and 5. And I think, if anything, Leon Edwards isn't normally known as like a finisher. I know he got that really good finish against Kamaru Usman, but in the UFC, he hasn't really been a finisher. He's been more of a guy that's going to take you to a decision, kind of rely on banking rounds. And I think if you are going to be playing that decision game against Colby Covington, it's a very dangerous game. I mean, look at his career in the UFC. Obviously, outside of his losses, he got some early KOs, but look at all these decisions. He's kind of a decision fighter. Colby Covington's relatively durable. I guess he is a little bit older now, so we'll kind of see what his chin looks like, but a lot of that has to do with his diet and all that kind of thing. So we'll see what he looks like in this fight. I do think a decision game for Leon Edwards is a very dangerous game to play against Colby Covington, so I do think he needs to be looking for the finish, especially early on in this fight. That's where I think Leon Edwards has a really good chance at beating Colby Covington with the body kick, and eventually in like the third round, maybe he can hurt Colby Covington very badly and just finish him up on the ground after he hurts him very badly there. But I think Colby Covington against a decision guy in Leon Edwards is going to do really well in this fight, is going to win a 3-2 decision, 48-47 decision over Leon Edwards, and I just don't like it for Leon Edwards in this fight. I think it's just going to be a little bit too much. You saw how I don't want to say cardio because it was at altitude, but you can see how the way Colby Covington fights, you can see how that could be a problem for Leon Edwards cardio-wise, where the pace is just going to be a little bit too much, and I think he's going to have a little bit of PTSD over there down in Vegas from where he was at altitude in that Salt Lake City fight against Kamaru Usman. So I think Colby Covington is going to really put it on Leon Edwards, and I think it's going to be really pretty much like a testament on what Leon Edwards can do as this fight goes on. So I'm going to go with Colby Covington. I think the pace is just going to be a little bit too much for Leon Edwards as this fight goes on. I think he's going to pour out a lot early to try and finish Colby Covington. I think that's the way he kind of has to win. Just kind of, if he can kind of just slow Colby down, maybe he can play that decision game, hit him to the body, slow him down that way, and kind of just play that point game, stay out of range, and kind of get out of the way of Colby Covington when he is trying to go for those takedowns, because he's not going to stuff all of them. And even if he does, you know Colby's going to be right on him and just try to tug on him down. And Leon Edwards isn't going to be able to defend all the takedowns. That's the thing. So I'm going to go Colby Covington, 48-47 decision. We'll see what he looks like durability-wise. He hasn't fought in a while. You've seen him in that Kamaru Usman fight, and you know Leon Edwards is a little bit more technical than Kamaru Usman. So maybe Colby Covington could get KO'd in the first couple rounds here, but I don't know. I think Colby Covington has a really good chin. I think he's going to be able to come back into this fight. I think he's going to get knocked down early. However, I think he's going to rally and end up winning this fight, 48-47 decision. Let me know who you guys think wins down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time.